Welcome to Know This Live. I'm Zinkley Asamoah. President Biden set building back the economy as one of his priorities when he came into office earlier this year. But as America bounces back from a pandemic, the reopening has been staggered and complicated. To talk about the state of the economy, I'm joined by Samira Fazali. She's the Deputy Director of the National Economic Council. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me today.
Of course. And I want to jump in. I know a survey this week found that Americans are confident in the labor market, that they believe in their jobs and their ability to bounce back. So, would love to hear from you. What is the state of the labor market? And given this view from so many Americans, does that sort of optimism negate the need for President Biden's jobs plan?
Look, I think that before this pandemic, we saw that the economy wasn't working for a lot of people and that wages weren't increasing, that um, profits at firms were accruing to the managers and to the shareholders and not to the workers. And so we it is really important that we take this moment to make a generational investment to ensuring that America's workers, who are the heart and center of our innovation, have the ability to capture not just the jobs that are in demand today, but the jobs that are going to be in demand in the future. And so we have to not just look at the fact that there's a tight labor market today, but we have to make major investments in our education system and the workforce development systems that will make sure that workers are able to access the jobs that are going to be growing in the future and the higher wage job opportunities that are available in the future. And that's why the American Jobs Plan calls for big investments in community colleges and in $40 billion in sector-based training and dislocated worker training so people can reskill as the economy changes and get to into the jobs that are likely to be increasing in the future.
I know a lot of economists are worried about inflation when it comes to the economy. They suggest that rising expectations of price hikes among consumers might become some sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. I wonder what the Biden administration is doing and how you are thinking about stemming this problem.
Yeah, you know, the this pandemic has been so unprecedented, and it's really you're seeing shifts in demand, shifts in what consumer preferences are, what consumers are trying to buy. Last year we saw a rush for home repair and home renovations as people spent more time at home. And then you saw huge spikes in tablets and computers as people had to move to work from home and school from home. So there's been some demand shifts, and it has been difficult for supply to adjust as quickly as demand has changed. And so you're seeing these dislocations in supply demand mismatches. We fully anticipate that these are going to be transitory in nature and resolve themselves as the pandemic, as the vaccination campaign completes itself, and as the global vaccination campaign picks up as well, because so many of our supply chains, the production systems that create all these goods people are trying to buy are global in nature and aren't just dependent on what happens in here in the U.S. economy. But we also know that this was a historic, unprecedented global pandemic. And so we're going to be really watchful. We're going to be really mindful to make sure that there isn't anything we could possibly be doing to close these supply demand mismatches. And that's why we announced the creation of a supply chain disruptions task force last week, which is going to be led by three cabinet secretaries: Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Agriculture, and the Secretary of Transportation, who are all going to go out there and run quick sprints to diagnose what are some of the drivers of these supply demand mismatches, pull forward ideas about what actions could be taken to reduce those mismatches, and see what can get implemented. The solutions there, we recognize, may not be solutions that the government needs to take, right? Sometimes we are going to be doing broad outreach to both industry players, labor, community-based organizations, to understand what everyone sees as a problem, do a full 360 diagnosis, and then understand um, where we can improve, in some instances, their abilities to do the problem solving.
I know that President Biden has said part of the need for investments in combating climate change is because of the international competitive advantage doing so would have. And if we don't, the reality is he believes that other countries will surpass us. Where do you see the most untapped potential in the United States?
One, we have an amazing set of assets to build from, and that's why we call for large investments in climate research and development. The US university system is unsurpassed, our national labs are unsurpassed. And so we really need to build from our strengths in science and technology and make big investments in public R&D, public research and development, which is going to fuel the new discoveries that will help us create the batteries of the advanced batteries of the future, for example, and batteries that are less reliant on scarce minerals like lithium and cobalt. So, one, there's huge opportunities there here in the US. I think the other important part of our strategy on the climate transition is ensuring that we're not just inventing these new technologies, but we're building them here in the US. So we make investments in installing solar panels. We make investments in producing the wind turbines needed for the renewable grid. And that's why our investments um, in infrastructure and in creating a renewable grid and the clean energy future are really essential and important to pull forward the job creation for Americans that the net zero transition is going to be able to support.
Well, thank you so much, Samira Fazali, for sharing your insights with us, Deputy Director of the National Economic Council. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and thanks to everyone for watching. This has been Know This Live. I'm Zincle Esamoah.